Welcome to Dumo Plays. In Splatoon, we often talk about building our mechanical skills and our game sense, but today let's talk about a system. This system actually comes from FLC, who is a competitive player and coach, and it's presented in a Google document which I'm going to have linked in the description. The purpose of having a system is to make sure that there aren't holes in the team's game. Competitive sports teams often have systems. Zone defense is actually very common in many sports, and that in itself is a system. Everyone knows where they should be and what their job is. This allows players to know what the rest of the team is doing at any given time. This also means that someone getting pulled out of a position can be easily covered by another player. It also means that a player can make a conscious choice, a decision to break their position to do something that they feel will be beneficial to the overall defense. If the Splatoon community widely adopts a specific system, we'll have a community that knows what everyone else is doing at any given time. We'll know that positions are covered, and we'll be able to rely on our teammates more. What this means is better teamwork and overall a better experience in ranked. Just a disclaimer, this isn't the only system that's out there. There are other systems, they work very well. However, this is a system that at its core is fairly simple, yet has a lot of depth to be very complex. It covers every weapon in the game, so this is the one that I personally like to follow. Let's take a look at the document. The document is called Fluid Priorities and Roles by FLC. Let's start with the 4 priorities. Number 1, don't wipe. Number 2, engage the enemy. Number 3, win fights. And number 4, FLC calls accelerate. For anyone that doesn't know what a wipe is when your entire team dies at the same time. When your team wipes, it's devastating. You're giving up entire control over the map to the other team. They can do whatever they want, whenever they want. They can move around anywhere they want to go without worry of getting picked off. They can get into positions to block your attempts to re-enter the map, and they can prolong the amount of time that you're locked out. They can even push up into your spawn and keep you locked in there. As your teammates start dying off, you have to think about backing up, or at least disengaging and hiding. For this reason, paying attention to the top of your screen is going to become very important in making sure that your team doesn't wipe, and knowing when you're the last person or when you're getting down to the last person and you're going to have to start disengaging and backing up. Number 2 is engaging the enemy. This is fairly self-explanatory. If you don't engage the enemy, you might as well have been wiped. You don't want to give them full access to the map. This could be anything from fighting them and trying to kill them, to firing ink at them to control your map space, and just not let them have access to parts of the map without any sort of risks. Number 3 is winning fights. Again, self-explanatory. This could be anything from getting kills to simply pushing the enemy team out of areas of the map so that you can control key points on the map. And last, the 4th priority is what FLC calls accelerate, which he defines as moving from fight to fight as quickly as possible. In general, this basically just means that you want players to be doing their specific jobs and their specific roles. If you have a player whose job is to get kills, you don't want them to be stopping to turf mid or ink the zone after winning a fight. They want to get into the next fight as soon as possible and win that one as well. This is probably the priority that has the most depth to it. There's a lot of different options that you can go with. Anything from having a specific player doing specific jobs, such as one player turfing mid or inking for the teammates while they get into other positions, to having the whole team doing it all at once. As we start talking about roles, keep in mind the priorities. The number 1 priority is always the number 1 priority, and that will always be to not wipe. Just because you have a specific role that you wish to be doing, that you excel at, doesn't mean that you are going to be able to do that role the entire match. If you're the last one alive, you have to start looking at your priorities. You have to make sure that your team doesn't wipe. For this reason, remember that the roles are fluid, and at any given time, you may need to change your role. I believe this is part of the system and part of the document where most of us are going to get an immediate takeaway that they can actually start focusing on to become better players. Priority 1 is handled by the anchor. The anchor is the player that's focused on staying alive and therefore making sure that the team doesn't wipe. In staying safe, this also means that they'll be in a safer position for players to jump to after they die in order to get back into the fight sooner. Now that we've talked about what it takes to be an anchor, how do you be a good anchor? And well, that's going to involve being as effective as possible while still staying safe. For this reason, we usually have our long-range weapons, our chargers and splatlings, playing as the anchor. This also means that for a lot of us, we may have to move up. If you're not in range of the other team, you're not applying pressure and you're not being effective. But at the same time, if you're too far up, you're going to be easier to be killed by the other team, and therefore you're not being safe and you're not properly anchoring. You need to find a balance between being able to reach the other team and therefore being effective, and being too far up and no longer being safe. This is going to come with time, and as your mechanical skills, game sense, and vision gets better, you'll be able to move further up while still being safe. Since the anchor is covering the first priority, which is our most important priority, if the anchor goes down, someone has to shift to the anchor position in order to have it covered. Priority 2 is to engage the enemy, and that's going to be handled by your skirmisher. This is a term that doesn't come up too often in the Splatoon community, so I want to kind of cover more of what FLC says about it than I would some of the other roles. A skirmisher is someone who initiates fights. They want the enemy team focused on them so that the rest of their team can perform their jobs without any hindrance. If a skirmisher can distract 3 players on the enemy team, the rest of the skirmisher's teammates can kill those distracted players easily and quickly with little risk to themselves. This means that the skirmisher must be able to start fights and survive long enough for the rest of the team to be able to win the fight. Preferably the skirmisher would survive the entire fight, but since it's an occupational hazard, the skirmisher tends to be the first one to die in a fight. In order to force a fight, you have to be able to threaten the other team. If you never come in range, and you never put any pressure on the other team, there's no reason for them to be drawn out towards you. They're not about to overextend just because they saw someone off in the distance. You need to find situations that threaten them in order to make them respond. On defense, the skirmisher's survivability will also allow them to buy time for their teammates to respawn and get into position to defend the opposing team's pushes. FLC has outlined 3 skirmishers. They're tank skirmishers, also special tank skirmishers, evade, and trick skirmishers. For tank skirmishers, think Tenebrella and players with walls. They can tank shots and threaten the other team while staying somewhat safe and surviving a little bit longer. Special tanks are a subclass of the tank skirmisher, as they use a special in order to have the teams focus on them. Think Baller or Hammer. You don't really want to be focused on using a special tank as your skirmisher because you don't want to have to wait to build a special in order to engage the enemy. However, if your skirmisher does die, you can use a special tank to start another fight right away while your skirmisher respawns. For your evade skirmishers, think long-range dualies, your Glugas, dually squelchers, and tetras. They threaten at a range, and they're hard to kill due to their dodge rolls. Trick skirmishers are weapons that are very threatening on certain parts of the map. Think your sloshers, dynamos, and rapid blasters. They are able to threaten kills in places that other weapons just can't, and force the other team to either fight or back up. A lot of time, a trick skirmisher will start off by entering a portion of the map that they're very strong in, and then just getting a kill. This allows their team to move to the next fight, while having a numbers advantage. Priority 3 is to win fights, and that's going to be the main job of the Slayer. They're the ones that are collecting kills on the distracted players, and, well, if everything goes properly, their job should be pretty easy. They want short-range weapons that are reliable and have quick kill times. If they combo well with the rest of the team, even better. The weapon poster child for the Slayer would probably be the Splatter Shot. It's short range, has a great kill time, and it's accurate. It also has 3 strong kits to do the job. The main thing you want to be focused on doing as a Slayer is to kill the enemy team before they kill your teammates. Your job is actually more to protect your team than it is to kill the other team. It's just, well, that's what you excel at, and that's how you're going to protect your team, by killing the other team. This means that if you go for a wide flank and get a triple, but the rest of your team is dead, you didn't really help your team, and you didn't help your team get a win. This also means that if you get a triple and you turn around and the rest of your team is dead, that's not on them. It's not their fault for dying, it's your fault for not keeping them alive. Fighting with your teammates and getting 1 or 2 kills while keeping the rest of your team alive actually creates an opportunity to accelerate to the next fight. This is what you want to be focused on. One thing you can start doing as a Slayer is actually sticking with your teammates and waiting for a fight to break out. After someone takes on the skirmisher role and engages the enemy team, they'll be distracted and then you quickly kill them in order to keep your skirmisher alive. You need to wait for the enemy team to be distracted, but you don't want to wait so long that they get kills on your teammates. Remember, it's up to you to keep them alive. Priority 4 is Accelerate, which is going to be handled by your utility weapon. The main job of the utility is to make sure that the rest of the team can do their jobs with fewer issues, while stopping to do other jobs that they don't need to be doing. This could include turfing, killing flanks, or even removing sprinklers and beacons. the role is broken up into 3 groups: the Crossfire, Defensive, and Special utilities. The Crossfire utility group is made up of mid-ranged weapons with good kill times that just aren't able to fulfill the other roles. Think your K-Pro, your Squeezer, your Nautilus, as the common ones in the meta today. The defensive utility is a weapon that's very strong in 1v1 situations. Think your brushes, rollers, brellas, spray shooters, and blasters that don't fit the other roles. Things like Brella are great at turfing and fantastic 1v1 fighters. Rollers don't turf as well, but they can ambush flankers, and once the fight is won, they can get into some strong positions to shark and make it very difficult for the enemy team to start a retake. Lastly, we have the special utilities, which are weapons that spam their specials. While their special is down, they tend to act like a weaker version of the other utilities. Note, this doesn't say painting the far side of the map for missiles while your team is fighting in a 3v4. I'm looking at you, splooshes and NZaps. The most common special utility at this point in time is the Splattershot Junior. They'll build armor and give it to their teammates to start a fight, and after a fight has been won, they can turf the map while their teammates move to the next fight. This also gives them a chance to build yet another special to fire off at the beginning of the next fight in order for their teammates to have a better chance of survivability. Not only does this allow them to spam their special, but it also means that they're helping their team accelerate from fight to fight. In between building specials, or if they don't have a special ready for the next fight, they can throw bombs to produce chip damage to act as a crossfire utility, or they can engage enemy flankers such as the defensive utility would. This will prevent a flanker from joining the fight and possibly killing your fighting pair, which is your skirmisher and your slayer. In both cases, they're not as effective as a crossfire or defensive utility, but it's better for them to join their team and help than try to play turf war in a corner for a special. One more important thing to note about the utility role is that since they're covering the lowest priority, if another member on the team goes down, they will be the first ones to shift. If the anchor goes down, it's very common for the utility to shift to the anchor role and concentrate on staying alive. If the skirmisher goes down, they may have to shift into the skirmisher role, or it could be something a little more complex as the slayer shifting to the skirmisher role while the utility shifts to the slayer role. This will be one of the more difficult parts of playing as a utility, especially in ranked where you don't have the communication or planning that would go into playing on a dedicated team. This video has just scratched the surface of what's been written in the document, so as I said earlier, a link to the document is in the description. I highly recommend reading through the entire thing. It's not that long. It's a great system that covers every weapon. It discusses which weapon should be in each role, weapons sharing roles on a team, splitting up into groups of 2 on certain maps or times, and a bunch of other great stuff. Building your understanding of the game will only help your gameplay. Playing with people that have built their understanding will also help your teamwork and the experience when playing, especially in ranked. In order to help others create a better understanding of the game, share the document that has been written by FLC. Even if you're running a different system, it's worth knowing the other systems that are out there. Not only will it help you counter other teams, but it will also help you with teamwork when playing with other players. This has been Dumo Plays. Thanks for watching.